It started with something so small I almost laughed it off at the time. She turned her phone face down every time I walked into the room. Not dramatically, not like in movies, just a quiet, almost automatic motion, like she'd rehearsed it without realizing. I remember noticing it while I was cooking pasta, hearing the faint tap of the screen against the table. At first, I told myself it was nothing. We'd been together for 3 years. People get weird about their phones. Privacy, habits, whatever. But then I started remembering other moments. How she'd step out of the room to answer calls. How she'd leave notifications unopened for hours when she used to read them immediately. How she started changing her passcode. For security reasons. I didn't push. That's the thing I regret most. I thought trust meant not asking questions. I thought being a good partner meant giving space. Back then, everything still felt normal on the surface. We still cooked together, watched shows, laughed at stupid things. She still kissed me before work like nothing had shifted. But something had. I just didn't have the courage to name it yet. Looking back, I can see the exact moment the distance started growing, even though I pretended not to feel it. She began staying late at work more often. Or at least that's what she said. I didn't question it because her job and marketing had always been chaotic. Deadlines, clients, last-minute calls, it all sounded believable enough. What I did notice was how she started guarding her phone like it contained something fragile. She'd angle the screen away from me when replying to messages. Sometimes she'd smile at it, just a small, private smile she didn't share with me. That smile bothered me more than anything else. Still, I convinced myself I was being paranoid. I even joked about it once, saying she was married to her phone now. She laughed too quickly, too sharply. I remember sitting next to her on the couch that night, feeling like there was an invisible wall between us. She leaned her head on my shoulder, but it felt like she was somewhere else entirely. I should have asked her directly then. I didn't. Instead, I chose comfort over truth. The first real crack came from something so ordinary it almost didn't register. She forgot her phone at home one morning. She panicked in a way that didn't match the situation. I remember her voice shaking slightly as she realized it, already halfway out the door. She said she couldn't function without it at work, that she'd come back if she had time. But what stuck with me wasn't the panic. It was how she refused to let me bring it to her when I offered. "No, don't touch it," she said too fast. That stayed with me all day. I was sitting at home with her phone on the kitchen counter. It buzzed once, then again. I didn't look at it. I swear I didn't at first. But then a message preview lit up the screen with a name I didn't recognize. A male name. Something in my chest tightened. I still didn't open it. Not yet. But I started paying attention after that. Proper attention. The kind you can't unlearn once it starts. A week later, I noticed she had started hiding her number when she called me from work. It sounds ridiculous when I say it now, but I remember it clearly. Instead of her usual contact, her calls appeared as private number. She told me it was a new company policy for external calls. I believed her. Or wanted to. But then I checked something I shouldn't have. I went through our phone bill. I told myself I was just verifying what she said, like a normal person would. That's when I saw the frequency of calls to a number I didn't recognize. Late nights. Short calls. Sometimes multiple times a day. I memorized it before I even realized I was doing it. I started sleeping badly after that. Not because I knew the truth, but because I felt it circling me, getting closer. She still acted normal. Still kissed me. Still asked about my day. But I started flinching when her phone buzzed. And worst of all, I started feeling like a stranger in my own relationship. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I did something I'm not proud of. I became obsessive in silence. I watched her. I studied her routines like patterns in code. She started showering with her phone, taking it to the bathroom at night, turning her back to me when she texted in bed. The breaking point wasn't loud. It was quiet. One evening, she was in the kitchen and I heard her laugh at something on her phone. Not her usual laugh. This one was softer. More intimate. Almost familiar. I asked her who it was. She didn't even hesitate. A colleague. But she didn't look at me when she said it. That was the first time I felt something close to fear, not fear of losing her, but fear of what I might already know and refuse to accept. That night I couldn't sleep. I just lay there listening to her breathe beside me, wondering how two people could share a bed and still live in different realities. Everything exploded accidentally, the way these things always seem to. She was in the shower. Her phone was on the bed. It lit up with a message preview I couldn't ignore. The name was my brother's. At first, my brain refused to process it. It felt like a glitch, like I had misread it. I even laughed once, quietly, because the alternative didn't make sense. But then another message came through. And another. I picked up the phone. I don't even remember unlocking it. I just remember scrolling. Months of conversations. Casual at first. Then personal. Then, something else. Inside jokes I didn't understand. Late-night confessions. Complaints about me. About how hard it is pretending. My brother's words were the worst part. Familiar. Comfortable. Like he had always had access to a version of her I never knew existed. I sat there holding the phone while the shower ran in the background, feeling like the floor had disappeared beneath me. I didn't cry immediately. I just went completely still. And then I heard the bathroom door open. She saw the phone in my hand before she even saw my face. I don't think I've ever seen someone lose color so quickly. "What are you doing?" she asked, but her voice already knew. I held it up. No shouting. No rage yet. Just a strange, hollow calm. "Explain this," I said. She didn't. Not at first. She wrapped a towel around herself and sat on the edge of the bed like her body had given up before her mind caught up. She kept looking at the floor, at the wall, anywhere but me. Then she said his name. My brother. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. I remember feeling something snap inside me, not loudly, but permanently. Like a wire being cut. She tried to speak. Tried to explain timing, loneliness. It just happened. But I wasn't hearing words anymore. I was hearing everything I had missed, everything I had ignored, collapsing all at once. And in that moment, I didn't recognize her at all. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was how long it had been happening right beside me. She told me it started months ago. That it wasn't planned. That it grew from conversations I never knew existed. My brother apparently knew everything about our relationship. Our arguments. My insecurities. Even the things I said in confidence at home. I felt exposed in a way I can't describe. Like my life had been narrated behind my back. I asked her why him. She said she didn't know. I asked my brother later the same question. He said nothing at first. Then he said, "It wasn't supposed to get this far." That phrase still echoes in my head. Because it did get that far. And I was the only one left outside of it, watching my life from the wrong side of a glass wall I didn't know existed. The confrontation between me and my brother didn't feel real at first. It felt staged, like I was watching someone else's life fall apart. He didn't deny it. That was what hurt most. No dramatic excuses. No anger. Just this tired, guilty expression like he'd been waiting for the moment I'd finally find out. "She's not happy," he said. As if that explained anything. I remember asking him if he ever thought about me. If either of them did. He didn't answer that. Instead, he said something I'll never forget. "We didn't plan for you to be the one getting hurt." As if betrayal needs permission to become betrayal. I left his apartment without saying goodbye. I didn't scream. I didn't hit anything. I just walked out into the street feeling like I didn't know how to be a person anymore. When I came home, she was still there. That surprised me more than anything. We sat in silence for a long time. Not the peaceful kind. The suffocating kind. The kind where every breath feels like a mistake. She kept crying, but I couldn't connect to it. It felt distant, like it was happening in another room. I asked her if she loved him. She hesitated too long. That was my answer. What broke me wasn't just the yes or no. It was realizing she didn't fully know herself anymore either. At some point she said, "I didn't mean to destroy everything." And I believed she believed that. But intention doesn't erase consequences. We sat there until morning, two people trapped in the ruins of something we both helped build and destroy at the same time. The days after were the hardest of my life. I couldn't eat properly. Couldn't sleep. I kept replaying conversations, trying to find the exact moment things shifted. My family found out quickly. Not from me. That made it worse. My mother called, crying. My father didn't say much, just a long silence that somehow felt heavier than words. My brother stopped speaking to me entirely after that first confrontation. And she moved out within a week. The apartment felt wrong after she left. Too quiet. Too empty. Like it was waiting for someone who wasn't coming back. I started noticing things I'd ignored before. How much of my life had been built around her presence without me realizing it. Even grief felt complicated. I didn't just miss her. I hated her. And I missed her anyway. That contradiction sat inside me every day like a weight I couldn't put down. What hurt most wasn't losing her. It was realizing how easily I had been replaced in her emotional world while still being physically present. I kept asking myself if I missed signs that were obvious in hindsight. Probably I did. But knowing that doesn't soften anything. It just adds guilt on top of pain. I tried talking to friends, but I couldn't explain it without sounding broken or dramatic. So I stopped trying. I started working longer hours. Anything to avoid going home to silence. At night, I'd sit in the dark and think about my brother. About how someone you grow up with can become someone who takes pieces of your life without asking. There were moments I wanted to call him. Not to reconcile. Just to understand. I never did. Because I didn't trust what I'd hear. Or what I might say back. Eventually, I had to face something uncomfortable. There was no clean ending to this. No closure conversation that fixed anything. She tried reaching out once, weeks later. A message saying she wanted to talk properly. I read it several times before deleting it. My brother never reached out again. Our family gatherings became impossible after that. We stopped showing up to the same events. People stopped asking questions after a while, but I could feel them still wondering. I started noticing how trust works differently after something like this. It doesn't just break, it changes shape. It doesn't come back the same. Even small things felt different. Friendships. Dating. Conversations. Everything carried a question mark now. And I hated that I couldn't go back to being someone who didn't see that question in everything. There are nights I still replay everything. Not because I want to suffer, but because my mind won't let it go untouched. I think about the version of me who trusted easily. Who believed love was stable if you just tried hard enough. That version feels naive now. But I also miss him. I sometimes wonder if she thinks about it too. About what she destroyed. About whether it was worth it. I doubt she does in the same way I do. Because I don't think people carry guilt equally. What stays with me most is not the betrayal itself, but the quiet realization that two people I trusted most were capable of rewriting my reality without me noticing until it was too late. That kind of truth doesn't fade. It just becomes part of you. I don't really know how to end this. There's no lesson that makes it make sense. I lost my relationship. I lost my brother and everything but blood. I lost a version of my life I thought was permanent. People say time heals things like this. I don't think that's true in the way they mean it. Time just teaches you how to carry it differently. I still think about trust a lot. Not as something you give or withhold, but something fragile that can exist even when everything looks fine on the surface. If there's anything I've learned, it's that silence is never neutral. It always means something is happening somewhere you're not looking. And sometimes, the people closest to you are the ones you never think to question, until you have no choice left but to see them clearly. Even then, I'm not sure you ever really recover from that kind of clarity.